I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. If you've been looking at my website, starborninstitute.org, you'd already know that the title of tonight's show is Things Are Winding Up. And that's because they have to. And also it's because we are having a new moon on Friday at 22 degrees of Virgo. And Virgo rules finishing things, so it's natural that things should be winding up right now. And the sun and the new moon at 22 degrees are in the last decan of the sign, which is sub-ruled by the Venus that rules Taurus. So there could be something winding up that has to do with perhaps a favorable financial matter or a practical matter, since the Virgo is an earth sign and all the earth signs are very realistic and practical. They keep their mind on business. And so the day after the new moon, Mercury, the ruler, which is also in the sign, goes direct. It's been retrograde, but it goes direct. And so that can further accentuate the idea of things winding up, and there could be some good news about that. Mercury does rule news. And so it can be, since Virgo is a modest sign that rules the traditional 6th house of your work and your employment and your health, and that could be both mental health, because it's a mental sign, or your physical health, because it rules the whole central nervous system. It can be that there are matters that can be winding up regarding your job or your health or your career, because there is a grand trine in the earth signs as well, which has been holding for well over a month. So things can be winding up in one way or another, because the number that rules Virgo is the number 9, and it's the highest of all the single digits. And so it rules finishing. And so at the very least, something is due to finish this month. And it could be in the next week under the new moon in Virgo. And so you have to understand that if one thing ends, perhaps that just opens the way for something new to begin. But we're going to be a little bit more at the winding up stage right now. And that is because even though there are wonderful planets in Virgo, the sun, the new moon, and Mercury, the ruler, they are all being opposed vehemently by Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. And these planets have been going head-to-head in a fierce opposition for well over a month, and that indicates people with irreconcilable differences. Well, if things are winding up, maybe the people that are at loggerheads can be reaching some sort of a compromise, or maybe giving up and deciding not to fight anymore, or possibly something can be winding up in a practical way that allows them to move on, each in their own separate directions, which would be rather nice. And it would also end the pressure and the tension among the people around them. That would be good too. So really, things can be winding up in a lot of different ways. And if they're not happening to you directly, they could be happening around you, and you would be affected by that. And so just keep your eyes and ears open for things that are winding up, perhaps in the next week or certainly this month. And so that is a harsh aspect with the opposition of these 5 planets between the 3 in Virgo and the 2 in Pisces. But there are other things going on as well. It's just that the new moon and sun and Mercury are part of a grand trine in the earth signs. And that simply means that they are favorably trining Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. And so whatever is winding up, I think, has to do with practical matters that these 3 signs rule. And Virgo rules your work and your health. And it rules accounting. And it rules facts and details and analysis, because Virgo is the sign of analysis. And so it rules very good problem solving. And it rules the ability to sort of see something through to the finish, which Virgos are very good at doing, even though they can sometimes get left holding the bag and having to do it by themselves. But they continue. They They like to finish things. And so that's what Virgo rules. But those planets are trining Pluto in Capricorn, which is retrograde, and Capricorn rules your 10th house of career. And it rules your public reputation. And it rules a pension plan that you may be working for, or a retirement plan that you have been very devoted to. And that is somewhat favorably aspected, although it may not be quite as powerful as you thought it would be, or have quite as much money in it as you were counting on, simply because Pluto is retrograde. And since Pluto is in Capricorn, and Capricorn rules large corporations, government agencies, and institutions, they can be having to retrench right now, and there just may not be as much money around as there used to be. And then these 4 planets are trining Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and Taurus does rule the traditional 2nd house of how you make your money and what you spend it on. So Taurus rules investments. But the planets in Taurus are retrograde, and so both Jupiter and Uranus are retrograde, and that simply means, since Uranus is a malefic planet and it rules sudden fluctuation or volatility, there can be quite a change in the value of investments, and it would possibly be going down, not up, and because these planets are retrograde. And so we have that to contend with. That could be why something is winding up right now, because we're all a little short of money, or the financial resources are not available that used to be. And so people have to cut back. So we all have to economize, but everybody in the world has to economize. So that means the heads of countries or of large organizations, the ones that had been sort of counting on big budgets, well, that's not going to be possible anymore. And that's because, one, there's just too many retrograde planets all going back in their orbits and picking up more information, possibly about things that had been hidden, that, it's always better to know the truth, because then you know what you're dealing with. And so that could be coming up because of this harsh opposition between the new moon, Sun, and Mercury in Virgo coming up against Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, because Pisces does rule things behind the scenes. Another reason why we can have to wind things up is because there can be a shortage of funding or financing, because that's ruled by Scorpio. And Mars, one of the rulers of Scorpio, is in Libra, which rules compromise. Oh, but Mars is not a planet that likes to compromise. And so it's in a sign of peace and compromise and sort of being laid back and just going with the flow of things. But that Mars in Libra now can be threatening to partnerships, and there can be, the result could be a break in a partnership, or a cancellation of a project, or a legal contract that is no more. And that is because that Mars in Libra is being squared by Pluto in Capricorn. And Capricorn, as I said, rules the big funders, the people in large corporations, government agencies, and institutions. And these 2 planets are squaring each other. They rule Scorpio. Scorpio rules money coming in from any other resource, so it's not going to be there. Not under these aspects, and these aspects will not change all month. That's why things have to wind up. But that's all right. I mean, if you're stuck, you can't get anywhere. You have to get unstuck, or you have to wind things up so that you can move forward. And so even though there are 6 planets in the Earth signs all trining each other, there are planets that are retrograde, and they are sub-ruled. They're not retrograde. They are retrograde, but they're in the last decan of their signs. And so they're sub-ruled by different planets. And as I said, the Sun and the new moon at 22 degrees on Friday in Virgo are sub-ruled by the Venus that rules Taurus, because they're in the last 10 degrees, and that's the sub-ruler of those 10 degrees. And then Pluto in Capricorn is sub-ruled because it's at 28 degrees. It's getting ready to leave. It's a slow mover, but it's getting ready to leave And it is sub-ruled, because it's in that last decan, by the Mercury that rules Virgo. And so that's why I think there's news coming about things that are finishing or ending or winding up. And would have to do with your career, because that's the sign Pluto is in, Capricorn, or with your retirement funds, or with the way that other large entities are having to retrench, which could have an effect through layoffs or cutbacks. And so that could affect all of us. And then both Jupiter and Uranus are retrograde, but it's Uranus that's in the last decan of Taurus. And this is where things get pretty serious. The last 10 degrees of Taurus, which is where Uranus, a malefic planet, is sub-ruled by the Saturn that rules Capricorn. And so a malefic planet, Uranus, is being sub-ruled by another malefic planet, Saturn, and it's in a financial sign, Taurus. Do you see that as things begin to wind up because they have to, it's going to be because the value of things has fallen and there just isn't enough money around. And that's because of the square of Mars and Pluto, which are Scorpio's ruler, meaning that the usual sources of funding aren't going to be there, or financing, or debt forgiveness, or that's not around anymore. And so we have to be very careful with our money. And then Saturn is the sub-ruler of that Uranus. You know, one malefic planet being sub-ruled by another malefic planet, that's harsh. But that's the way it is. And so it's going to be real nice when some of these planets that are in the last 10 degrees of the sign finally move into new signs. But some of them are very slow movers. Uranus, it takes 7 years to get through a sign. Pluto takes forever. In other words, it could take decades. So it's been in Capricorn a long time. Now, for most of this century. And so we have to contend with that. The Sun and the Moon, which are in the last 10 degrees of Virgo, well, they're both moving through. They'll go into Libra and change signs. And Mercury is retrograde, but it's going direct the day after the new moon. So I think we're going to have some news about things that are finishing or winding up or coming to an end. And all I can say is that with other perhaps difficult financial situations or terms or conditions that are beyond our control, we are going to have to be very careful with our money right now. And Virgo rules facts and small details and good problem solving. So this is a good new moon for us to all really be sitting down and maybe getting out a pencil and paper and writing down what our financial situation is and really trying to figure things out. Because maybe we could get some good answers right now and solve some problems, I hope. Okay, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Aries. Well, Aries, for you, it's very lucky that Venus is in Leo because it is trining your sun and it's now direct at 15 degrees. And you have the lucky north node in your sign, north node of the moon in your sign for the next year and a half or so. And so you could get sort of lucky with something, Aries. And I think it's in the realm of a relationship. In other words, I think there's a lucky friend around somewhere for you, Aries. Somebody that just likes you. And there can be a situation that you become involved with people that are sort of uplifting and make you feel happy. Or make you feel that it's a better world somehow. And that could be quite helpful to you, Aries. So it's really good that Venus in Leo is trining your sun and it's direct, which is fine. It's headed right toward your sun sign and Sagittarius. So that's good. And you know, you would need a little uplift right now, Aries. And the reason why is that yours is a cardinal sign and planets are building up in cardinal signs right now. So they would be squaring and opposing your sun sign, presenting you with some pretty insurmountable challenges. And that is because Mars is in Libra and it is exactly opposing your sun. And so you could be involved in some partnership or legal controversy that would represent a breakup or ending of something, ending a legal contract, for instance, or ending some partnership terms. Or it could have something to do with your job or your career, because Pluto in Capricorn is also squaring your sun. And so something is winding up for you, Aries. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world or anything, because I think you've got somebody or possibly a group of people around you that really like you, and they want to continue on with you. So if you have a good idea for a new beginning, I would talk to my friends if I were you, Aries, because there could be somebody that's quite willing to help you out, or just sort of be with you and encourage you in a new endeavor. And generally, Aries doesn't need any encouragement in a new endeavor because they're so good at making them. So you could be walking into a pretty good time, Aries, even though you can be facing the breakup of a partnership, or the cancellation of a project, or a legal contract that is not going to come out with terms that please you, but at least it would be over and allow you to move on. And that would be good for you, Aries. So, look at the glass as half full, not half empty. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Taurus. Well, Taurus, that Uranus in your sign, which is a planet of sudden surprising change and volatility, so you just can't figure out what it's going to do next. It takes 7 years to go through a sign, and there's 12 signs, so it takes 84 years to get back to a sign. And so a person has to be 84 years old before they have a Uranus return to the place where it was when they were born. That may or may not happen to some people, and it may or may not be happening to you, but it is in your sign. The last time that Uranus was in Taurus was between 1935 and 1942, the Depression and World War II. And that really did, a lot of problems with money during those times. And so if you are surprised at having problems with money now, the reason you'd be surprised is because there is a strong grand trine in the earth signs, and there has been for well over a month. And so you could have been thinking that you could get anything that you wanted right now. But that's not true. Particularly since Uranus has moved into the last 10 degrees, or the last decan of your sign, which is sub-ruled by Saturn in Capricorn. So you could be affected, Taurus, by changes that management is making in large corporations, government agencies, or institutions. You may be affected by that, and it would represent some sort of downsizing, because Saturn is a planet that would do that, and it is sub-ruling that Uranus in your sign. And Taurus rules the New York Stock Exchange. And so we might be facing different investment plans, and if you have an investment portfolio, you need to look it over real carefully right now, Taurus, because there are other conditions that could adversely affect your sun sign, such as Venus in Leo exactly squaring Jupiter in your sign. You're very lucky to have Jupiter in your sign. That's good. So you could be very optimistic about everything, but I'm urging you to wind something up and try to solve some problems, either career problems, health problems, or financial problems. You really have to sort of get things down a little bit to a manageable proportion in your budget, Taurus, if you can. Because there's only two financial signs, yours and Scorpio. And Scorpio is under adverse aspects because its rulers are squaring each other all month. That's not going to change. But you're under adverse aspects now that Uranus has got into that last decan, and that's going to be sub-ruled, or that is sub-ruled by Saturn. The Saturn that rules Capricorn, which rules our careers and large commercial entities. So at the very least, if you own any property that had been high in value, believe it or not, that value could drop. And it might be due to things that are out of our control, like high interest rates, or high debt, or high inflation. And the one that's killing all of us, high prices. And so generally a Taurus can afford what they want. But you might be surprised, Taurus, right now that you can't quite afford everything that you want. And it's not because you're not a good hard worker. It is because the money's not there. And so you're going to have to retrench a little bit, Taurus. Or else your employer's going to do that. Or it's going to happen somewhere in your life, Taurus. And all I'm saying is you got to try to hang on to your money. But at the same time, the costs could be very high. Even if you're making good money, the taxes on that could be high. Or the maintenance cost on some property could be going just up and up and up. So you need to be very careful with your money right now, Taurus. Because if one financial sign such as Scorpio is being challenged, and yours is sort of under the restrictive quality of Saturn, which subrules where Uranus is in your chart, you're going to have to pull in your belt. And either because there's not enough money or because there's too many costs involving money, and that means that what you were expecting after you pay all the costs, it's going to be reduced by those costs, and you won't get what you thought you would get. Even with the grand trine in earth signs. This new moon's going to do you some good. It trines your sun. And so you need to sit down with pencil and paper and really figure out things and try to do some good financial problem solving right now, Taurus. I know you don't always like to do that, but particularly just looking at the little things, but it would pay you to do that now, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to Gemini? Gemini. Well, Gemini, Mars in Libra luckily is trining your sun, which is good. And that is because the mutable signs that don't have planets in them have been under duress anyway. And that is because for well over a month, your sign, which is a mutable sign, and so is Sagittarius, both of those signs have been harshly squared, and they are being, right now, by the Sun and New Moon and Mercury on Sun and New Moon on Friday, and Mercury in Virgo, all squaring your sun, and Mercury is your own ruler, so you have to pay attention to small problems that need solving. And just plow through them, Gemini. You'll have to do that, or otherwise they'll get to be big problems. And that will be harder to solve. Okay, and also your sun sign is being squared by Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, so not everyone is your friend, and you do not always know what's going on behind the scenes. And so this is a time when you really need to pay attention to your intuition, Gemini, because, you know, if you even have the slightest suspicion that there's funny business going on behind the scenes, I would say you're 100% right. And you need to probably try to remove yourself from that kind of a situation or the kind of people that are doing funny things behind the scenes, because they would tend to be harmful to you sooner or later. And so you need to sort of detach yourself from some people that you innocently thought were okay, and they're really doing funny stuff behind the scenes. And you don't want that to rub off on you, Gemini. I mean, you have a reputation to uphold too. And we're all heading into the future, particularly the air signs. By 2025, you might be thinking that you're going to be sipping mint juleps on the veranda forever, but I can guarantee you by 2025, when Uranus comes into your sign, oh, you are really going to be supercharged. And you're probably going to have the following 7 years the happiest years of your life, no matter what age you are. You'll love it. So anyway, you have a lot to look forward to, but right now with the Sun and New Moon and Mercury in Virgo squaring your sun, and 2 more planets, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces squaring your sun. You need to walk on eggshells, Gemini, and be real careful. Mars in Libra is trining your sun. If you feel that you have been cheated or hoodwinked or whatever, and you're getting a little mad at that, you may decide to pursue a legal process, and you could win it. So you might consider that, Gemini, but remember, legal things cost money, but you could win it with Mars trining your sun. Simply because you'd find somebody that would really fight for you, and that's how you'd win it. So keep that in mind if you need to. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Cancer. This is a time, Cancer, when I think that you need to be very, very careful with your money, just like Aries does, because yours is a cardinal sign. And, oh boy, Mars in Libra is squaring your sun, Cancer. That's not too good, because Mars in Libra rules partnerships and legal contracts and compromise, but Mars is going to stir all that up and maybe even provoke a break in a partnership, or a break in a legal contract. And so you need to watch out for that, Cancer. And also, there is the possibility that that you should not respond too vehemently to it, because it's squaring your sun. And so somebody could want to make trouble for you right now, Cancer. And you know, you gotta sort of just get away from those people. Or, you know, make sure you're traveling at that time, or something like that, because they could want to make trouble for you, or there could certainly be a break in a partnership. This may not bother you, but still, if somebody wants to confront you, I would urge you, because Cancers are, you know, they're sort of sensitive. You would know who would want to be coming up against you. You could, Cancers are so sensitive, they know if it's friend or foe around them, and it looks like there could be a foe or an enemy around you, Cancer, and you would know that. And so, you know, you need to duck out, Cancer, and don't get into a confrontation with them, because that's what they want. See, the only way to end it is don't participate, because then they don't get anything from it. And in a way, you've won. So try to get out of town if somebody's coming looking for you, Cancer. This is just not the time for you to be involved in a controversy. And the reason for the controversy is that somebody wants you to pay a lot of attention to them, which they do not deserve. And they want to harm you. They want to take up your time and denigrate your reputation and harm you. And, you know, if you're around them, they could do that. So that's why I'm saying, leave. Or end something. It's okay. The new moon and sun in Virgo, along with Mercury, which goes direct the next day. The new moon is Friday, Mercury goes direct Saturday. They're sextiling your sun, Cancer. This is a new moon that's going to help you out. But in ways that are good for problem solving. But you don't have to agree to get tackled by your enemies right now. I urge you not to do that. But Mars squaring your sun is aggressive. You don't need that. So do not engage in an argument right now that somebody wants to get you into. Realize that's their plan. So don't do it. And then you've won. At least for now. And then the other thing is that Pluto in Capricorn is opposing your sun sign, which means you will be subject to decisions that are being made by organizations, corporations, or institutions or government agencies that have to retrench right now. You could be affected by that, Cancer. It would hit you one way or another. If it isn't in your job, it could be involving something in your home, because your sign rules the home, or family, something like that, or your country. So just realize that there are harsh aspects to your sun sign right now. And I would say that there are people that sort of want to come down on you right now. And if I were you, I would outsmart them. That's the way to beat them. Outsmart them. And with the new moon in Virgos, and with Mercury there, and the sun, which are the lights, sextiling your sun, you can think of a way to do that. Without getting into a confrontation that they're egging you on to do. See? In a way, somebody wants to sort of destroy you or your reputation or your happiness right now, Cancer. Just don't let them. And for that, you know, Cancer sign is the crab. And when Cancers are feeling like they need to defend themselves, they crawl into their shell and stay there. And that's a good idea. So I hope you try it. All right, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time, Leo, when money that you were expecting is just not going to be there. And the reason why is that Venus is now direct in your sign. Oh, that's good. Your sign's not being supported by anything. There's nothing in Aries and there's nothing in Sagittarius. But Venus is a real good planet. And it's at 15 degrees today. And it is exactly being squared by Jupiter in Taurus, also at 15 degrees. And that's why the sort of the big payoff or the money you were expecting or the increased value of an investment is not going to be there. It doesn't mean there won't be some improvement, but not what you were expecting at all. Which is too bad, because Leo rules extravagance. You were probably thinking of spending all that money if you could get your hands on it. But I don't think that that can happen right now. And then you have to be very careful with your finances anyway, Leo, because that Venus is also squaring Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is at 23 degrees. Both those planets are retrograde. But Uranus is at 23 degrees, which is the last decan of Taurus, which is sub-ruled by Saturn, which is another malefic planet. And Saturn rules your 10th house of career and public reputation. And so if you were thinking that you were going to make a lot of money in some way that's connected to your career, you might make some money, but not anything like what you were expecting. And so, Leo, you have to be very careful with money right now. And I would say you need to manage your expectations, and they need to be lowered. Okay? You need to settle for less, Leo, because something's better than nothing. And if something's going down, why do you think it won't keep going down? I mean, settle for less and get it now, before there could be further losses. That makes sense to me. There's a whole lot of things that are not in our control right now, because decisions are being made at much higher levels. And there are things that nobody can do anything about at the moment unless they try real hard, and it doesn't look like anybody's trying hard, and that is to manage debt. Okay? Because everybody, including most countries in the world, are in debt. And, you know, people can starve because of that. And so, Leo, you really need to pull in your belt and pull back and settle for less right now. But that's better than nothing. And it gets you out of a losing situation. You don't want to be in a losing situation. And if you can't see a way to make it get better, nobody else can either. So why don't you get out of it? That's why the show is called Things Are Winding Up. Because they have to wind up. There just isn't enough money left in the world. There's way too much debt. And still high inflation. And high interest rates or mortgage rates. You know? We have to economize. I know Leos don't like to do that because your sign rules extravagance, and you know, Leos are generous. They like to be the life of the party. But we're not entering party times. We're having to live through downsizing and retrenchments, and we have to respond to that. So I hope that you do something very practical right now, Libra. The new moon is right ahead of your sun sign. if you decided to settle for less and sort of lower your sights and your ambitions, you might do pretty well, actually. Because remember, there is a grand trine in Earth signs. But the Venus in your sign is not too lucky around these two other planets in Taurus that are squaring it. So take it easy and settle for less, because it's better than nothing. And if something's going down, I urge you, Leo, don't take it right down with it. It's not worth it. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Virgo, this is a time when there can be a lot of light on you. Maybe people are going to congratulate you at being such a good problem solver. And every Virgo is a good problem solver because your sign rules analysis. And this new moon at 22 degrees, 22 is a number that reduces to 4, very harmonious. And so a 22-4 is represents being on the square. It represents the 4 even sides of a square. So that any way that you knock the square over, it's still going to land on the same amount of surface. You know, it'll still stand up no matter which way it goes. And so Virgo, if you're feeling that you're getting a little bit challenged by people with irreconcilable differences that have been bothering you for months, you can do something about it, Virgo. Because the sun and new moon are in your sign on Friday, and your ruler Mercury goes direct the next day. It's been retrograde for the last 3 weeks. Okay, so maybe you haven't been able to make a connection or get your point across the way you wanted to. Or maybe you've been feeling like people have just been sort of avoiding you. Well, they might be busy with their things too. That's fair. But that's about to change, Virgo, because Mercury is so strong in your sign. It's just coming up against things that have been going on behind the scenes that you wouldn't like anyway. And so you're coming up against people that don't think the way you do, Virgo. So what are you still doing with them? Just give up. Yeah, I mean, Virgo rules analysis, so Virgos are very logical. You know, things have to add up. So that's why this is a good new moon for you, because it's at 22 degrees reducing to 4. You know, think about it. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that number is reducing to 4. 4 and 4 equals 8. 8 is the number of success. You know, you could be successful now, Virgo. But you know, you have to make the right choice, just not any old choice. You know, so if you're not happy with something, or you're suspicious of people that you think might be doing funny things behind the scenes, you don't need to go stoop to that level. And they could have been bothering you right now, or you could be bothered by what they're doing. And, you know, get away, Virgo. Think clearly. Do what you'd rather be doing instead of what somebody else wants you to do. I don't mean be rebellious or anything. I mean just sit down and figure out a practical way for you to be a little bit happier. You can do it. And it could involve where you live, or who you're living with, or where you work, or what plans you have for the future and how much those are going to cost. I mean, your sign rules accounting. You can figure all that out. And this is one of the best new moons in your sign that you've had for a long time. I mean, there's only one a year, but this is a really good one for you, Virgo. And Virgo, don't take second best. You don't need to right now. I don't even think you're around second best with these planets opposing your sun sign for so long. I think you're around people at the bottom. Or maybe they're putting on a good front and they don't want you to know how low they've sunk, but they have, and they're not your type. So leave. Or make sure they leave, one way or the other. You owe yourself a better life, Virgo, and you can figure out how to get it right now. So I would concentrate a little bit more on what would make you happy. And don't spend so much time on people that aren't worth it. Just get back to what makes you happy. You can figure it out. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Libra, This is a time, Libra, when you can be supercharged and sort of energized, and you can be thinking about a lot of different things because Mars is in your sign. And yet at the same time, a Libra likes things to be beautiful and to be peaceful and rather nice looking. Libra rules beauty and art and compromise and diplomacy. And Libras really like everybody to get along in one way or another. Libras are very good at getting along with a lot of different people. But now that Mars is in your sign, and it is one of the rulers of Scorpio, and Pluto in Capricorn is squaring that Mars in your sign, it simply means you might have money troubles right now, Libra. And I don't mean that you're broke. I just mean that you are up against the same thing all of us are up against right now, and that is high costs, high prices, high inflation, high debt. I mean, you name it, it's high. Are there any bargains around anymore? I don't think so. It's real hard to see. And so, Libra, this is a time when you should fall back a little bit on your own resources. And if you're supercharged, this would be a very good time for you to do some problem solving of your own, because that Sun, New Moon, and Mercury in Virgo are right behind your Sun sign. And that's where the new moon is. So somewhere in the background of your life, Libra, in the next week, remember the new moon isn't until Friday, but it's be in the next week, or the weekend, there is some sort of a controversy that might wind up or sort of come to a head, and you'd be able to see it pretty clearly. You'd be able to solve a problem. Maybe there's been a problem that you haven't been able to solve. Maybe it's a health problem. Or maybe it is a problem on your job. Or maybe it's a problem with people that you work with. In other words, it's not the work you do, but it's the people around you. Or where you live. And so there can be things that you can be worried about, stressful situations. And you know what that's doing to you, Libra? It's making you stressed out. You're contributing a little bit to the stress by, being so anxious about things. And so this is a better time for you to sit down and ask yourself how many things, particularly creative things, you can do with your own talent right now. Libras are always loaded with talent. And you're also awfully good in dealing with the public. You're popular in the public because Venus is your ruler. And so that could solve some of your problems by you just getting out with other people. Maybe joining a new group, something where you're making new friends. I mean, that's sort of an easy thing to do, doesn't take too much effort, but it could really get your mind off your troubles right now, Libra. And, or just pal around with somebody in a casual way. That would be nice. Or do something creative. Libras love, it rules art. Libras are creative. And if that could take your mind off your worries, then fine. Or if it could help stimulate your mind so that you are better at problem solving. You know how you work on one thing and an answer to something else can come to you at the same time? That happens to everybody. Well, that would be a good way for you to get over a stressful period right now, Libra. So you might think about that. And as long as you don't spend any money, a large amount of money, you're going to be fine. But if you get into financial arguments, you are not aspected to win them right now. Don't do that. And if I were you, I would just try to work a little bit more on your own personal happiness right now, because you're talented, and maybe you need to express yourself with your talent, and that would sort of give you a new sense of your own identity. And it's always nice to take a fresh look at yourself. You can do it, Libra, if you try. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time, Scorpio, with your rulers, Mars in Libra and Pluto in Capricorn, squaring each other, when I think you've got money problems. Now, that doesn't mean you're going broke, Scorpio. What it means is that the costs are too high, or people want to get their hands on your money and maybe there's been some fraud committed somewhere and you're not too happy about that. That could certainly be possible. Or it can be that a company that you work for or a government agency or a large institution has to retrench and cut back because there isn't enough money around anymore, and that could affect you. And so, Scorpio, with your rulers in harsh aspect all month, you really need to watch every penny and make sure that what is yours is yours. One thing about the financial signs of Scorpio and Taurus is that they are both very possessive signs. You know, they work hard for their money, it's theirs. And too bad if somebody doesn't understand that. And so, Scorpio, you got to make sure that you are not overspending, or you are not falling for some kind of scam that's trying to rob you of your money in one way or another, something that's fraudulent. That could be going on. Or it can simply be that somebody is not on the up and up, and they may be even using the law in a way to force you into some sort of agreement that is on their terms and is meant to hurt you, because your rulers are squaring each other. And I would try to set up some kind of a defense right now, Scorpio, or keep your guard up high, and watch out for people that are sort of after you right now, because, you know, one, they could want to harm you, but they're after your money for sure. And so you could be facing higher taxes, higher costs. Try not to go into any debt. In fact, try to get out of debt if you have any, because you don't want to be subject to rising interest rates or changing terms on credit cards or something like that. I mean, everybody's out for what they can get right now. And so, Scorpio, yours is a possessive sign. Just make sure they don't get anything you have, because you've earned it. You know, what's yours is yours. So I think that what you need to do is choose your moments and think over. Scorpio rules strategy, and it rules psychology. It's always a good idea to figure out where your enemy is coming from, and then figure out how to get around them or beat them. And if you think of the psychology of how to do that, you could succeed. And it may or may not cost you any money, but it's always better to get out of a bad deal than to stay in one. And so you want to progress. Saturn and Neptune are trining your sun. There is still a wonderful dream ahead of you, Scorpio, that you need to make come true, because it's going to be successful. It's just hard to do that when you're getting pounded by different people. But your sign rules survival. You can survive, Scorpio. There's no doubt about it. You can do that. So, first of all, just know you will survive. It's just that you don't have to be in a fight all the time. You could try to figure out, either how to get out of it, or figure out what someone else wants, and either go around that, or compromise if you want to. But I'm quite sure you'll survive, Scorpio. It's just you have to be careful with your money, because your rulers are challenging each other all month. So hang on to it. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius. This is a time, Sagittarius, when it's quite fortunate for you that Venus is in Leo trining your sun, because it's direct now and it's at 15 degrees. It's going to be zooming through that sign. And that simply means that there's somebody very nice around you, Sagittarius, that would like to get to know you better. And they're happy to help you. Somebody admires you or likes you, or, they enjoy your company, or they like to enjoy your company. And so, Sagittarius, you should be putting on a smile and looking your best these days, because who knows what could come of that. Also, there is the possibility that something that you've, or someone that you've had your eye on, that you do like, could be a little more in your sights now than they used to be. And that would be rather nice for you as well, Sagittarius. And that could offer you some relief from the fact that the new moon on Friday, with the sun, new moon, and Mercury in Virgo, and with Mercury going direct the next day, are all going to be squaring your sun. And Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are still squaring your sun. And so you, just like Gemini, are in the unfortunate position of sort of being caught or trapped in between people with irreconcilable differences that are only fighting in order to keep fighting. They don't even want to win. They're just bugging each other and liking it. That's sick. You need to get away from people like that. Don't take sides, Sagittarius. Won't do you any good. You just need to get away from people who are creating stress upon themselves and anybody else that's around. See? That's why people need to leave these people with irreconcilable differences. They're sort of acting up in order to have an audience. Well, don't be in the audience, Sagittarius. Leave. You wouldn't be looking at anything you like anyway, or that would make you happy. So leave. And go in a new direction, perhaps towards someone you do really like, or who likes you, while Venus is still trining your sun, because that's a good aspect. And always people should be going for the good aspects and trying to avoid the bad ones if they can. So you won't get all your problems solved right now because the new moon is squaring your sun, but it'll move on, and better days are ahead for you, Sagittarius. You just have to reach out a little bit more and make choices that will make you happy, and get away from people that are causing you stress and making you unhappy. It's time to say goodbye. It's time to wind something up. And you're doing it for your own peace of mind, and that's a good reason to do that. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, this is a time, Capricorn, with Pluto retrograde in your sign under that last 10 degrees in your sign, because it's at 28 degrees, sub-ruled by the Mercury that rules Virgo, and with the Sun and the new moon and Mercury in Virgo trining your Sun, and Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus also trining your Sun, and with your own ruler, Saturn, co-ruling or sub-ruling that Uranus in Taurus at the 23rd degree of Taurus. There is the possibility, Capricorn, that if a large organization such as your employer or a government agency or some institution has to cut back or lay off employees, it might, even if you got laid off, Capricorn, there would be some money for that. You would tend to still financially benefit. That money might come out of somewhere suddenly. You may be able to cash in your pension fund a little bit early. Or somebody may say, okay, well, why don't you retire early? And if they have the rules that allow you to do that and get your hands on your pension, you should consider that, Capricorn. That would be good. Anybody in this economic environment throughout the world right now that can get their hands on their own money should do it. And so that's possible that you could do that, Capricorn. And so even if you were laid off, there'd be money for that. Or if you were allowed to retire early, you would have been putting money away for that. So there is the possibility that some money could be coming your way, and yet there could still be some sort of retrenchment or change going on in an organization that would affect you in one way or another, but not adversely. There could be a hidden benefit to it, actually. And so that's good. So Capricorn, I think you're doing okay, except for the fact that yours is a cardinal sign. And so Pluto in your sign is squaring Mars in Libra. Don't get in a lawsuit, Capricorn. You won't win it. And so be real careful right now and try to stay away from anything that is intimidating you that has to do with legal affairs. If I were you, I'd go in another direction or go around them somehow, but not engage in any legal controversy right now. It would only cost you money. It wouldn't be worth it. People shouldn't be spending money right now. They should be getting their hands on money and just waiting out an uncertain economic time right now. So I hope you do that. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius. This is a time, Aquarius, when there are 3 planets in the fixed signs and they all adversely affect your sun sign. Okay? And so that means that Venus in Leo is opposing your sun, which means somebody else wants to go on their way, and they're probably going to do it. And my advice to you is just say, okay, freedom for everybody, because your sign rules freedom, and just let them do it. Because I don't think you can stop them anyway, Aquarius. And besides, it will relieve you of some sort of stress. Because you may not have agreed with the way they think anyway, so that could be a relief for you, actually. And then Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus is your own ruler, are squaring your sun sign. And so that means that some expected profit or gain from an investment or from high-priced property is not going to be what you think, Aquarius. It won't be for Leo either. It just won't happen the way they think. And it could be due to circumstances beyond anybody's control, such as high debt and high interest, really big problems that you and I can't solve. And so, what can we do? Well, try to really concentrate on reducing your costs in some way, Aquarius. And one good way to do that is to share the workload. And that is completely possible for you right now because Mars in Libra, which rules partnership, is trining your sun. It's not harming you at all. It's benefiting you and trining your sun. And that could bring you another partner with a lot more energy than you've got, Aquarius, and they could help you achieve a goal. And so I suggest you go looking for somebody that could help you out right now, because if they have the energy and you've got the great ideas, that's a pretty good combination, isn't it? And it helps both of you. Because people with a lot of energy need experience. They may have the energy, but not the experience. And people with good ideas generally have a lot of experience, and that's where the good ideas come from, and that makes a good team. And so that's quite possible for you now, Aquarius. So you need to get out and look for somebody that, is energetic and enthusiastic, and, give them any problem you want. I think that they'd be happy to help you with it. And that could help further your future plans as well. And that's the direction you should be going in anyway. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Pisces. This is a time, Pisces, when you're going to be coming up against the cold hard facts. And the reason why is that on Friday, the Sun, the new moon, and Mercury in Virgo are all going to be opposing your sun sign, where you have Saturn and your own ruler, Neptune, retrograde in your sign. But Mercury's going to go direct the day after the new moon. So these planets are headed your way, and they oppose your sun sign, Pisces. So Pisces, if you were sort of thinking you'd sort of just drift along at your own speed and do things your way, you're not going to be able to do that right now, Pisces. You are going to have to respond to deadlines and to schedules that you didn't even make, but that you have to follow. And do things according to somebody else's timeline. And that could be stressful, Pisces. But these planets oppose your sun sign. I don't think you can get away from having to wind something up right now. Because that's what the planets in Virgo represent, finishing and winding up something. And I don't think that anything, Pisces have very gentle natures. They can stall a long time before they have to really face reality because, they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings and they don't want to get hurt themselves. And you're out of time, Pisces. Now, problems need to be faced and wound up and ended. And, you are going to breathe the biggest sigh of relief you've ever had in your life, Pisces, when that happens. Something has just been too much for you for a long time. And that has affected your health. And it's particularly affected your mental frame of mind. Pisces, your sign, in its most harmful form, rules suicide. And it rules depression, because Saturn is in your sign now, and that's what that rules. And it also rules insanity. And I think that something has been driving you a little crazy for a long time and causing you stress and making you unhappy. And what would you do? You would turn around and try to escape that. Well, we can't all escape, Pisces. We have to turn around and face things sometimes, and this is going to be one of those times when you're going to have to do that. And I would say, Pisces, for sure, since your own ruler is in your sign for the only time in your life, and you have a planet of stability, Saturn, in your sign, I would say you're stronger than you think, and that you have the ability to make your own dreams come true. But something has to wind up or end first. And you need to get that out of the way so that you can go ahead in your life and be happy. So, if you want to start problem solving right now, Pisces, a really good question to ask yourself is, what would make me happy? And I mean forever. What would make you happy forever? What would make you really feel good? Because, as soon as you wind up something, or finish it, or end it, or let something go, then you're going to be on the road to tomorrow. And it's got a beautiful rainbow at the end, or it's got the dream of a lifetime there. All you have to do is go forward. But you've got to end something or face a problem first. And say goodbye to the problem. It wasn't making you happy anyway, at all. It was making you sick. And then go forward. You can do it, Pisces. You've had your ruler in your sign for years, and now you've got Saturn, which can give you strength and fortitude, backing you up. One thing that you've got now that you may not have realized as much in the past is that you have some wonderful friends, or even people who are older. Saturn rules time. People that are older that are in your corner, and they're going to stay there. They'll, if you feel you can't go on, they're going to help you do it anyway. And so you've got a great combination of planets in your sign, your own ruler Neptune and Saturn. They're both retrograde, which means you should have ended something a long time ago. And now you have to, because you have to wind it up. That's what this new moon is all about. Okay, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show on my Karen Campbell YouTube channel, or you can subscribe there and tell your friends about it, and then I'd be happy to send it to you every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And if you want a little deeper analysis of the theme of each week's show, you can read my blog on my website, starborninstitute.org. So until then, I'll see you next week. Bye.